I will be teaching you how to journalize bonds issued at a face amount. Let's get into it. On the first day of the fiscal year, a company issues a $700,000 6% 10-year bond that pays semi-annual interest, receiving cash of $700,000. Your job is to journalize the entry to record the issuance of the bonds. So the first thing we need to do is to put the two accounts being affected by the problem. For us, that'll be cash and bonds payable. So cash is going up as the company is receiving cash from the investor for the bond, and since it is an asset account, it goes up with a debit. As we can tell, the company is receiving cash of $700,000, so let's put that as the debit to the cash account. There we go. Now for bonds payable. This account represents the liability the company now has to pay back the investor for the bond amount at maturity, and as such, it goes up with a credit. This account is always recorded at the face value of the bond, and any difference in issue price is reflected in a premium or discount account. As we know, the face value of the bond is $700,000, so let's put that as the credit to bonds payable. And there we go. Your next job is to journalize the entry to record the first interest payment. So we got to do a little math. But first, let's put the two accounts being affected, which in this case are interest expense and cash. Firstly, interest expense. This account represents the cost of borrowing money over time that a company has to pay back that isn't part of the face amount. To calculate this amount, we have to find the semi-annual interest payment, which we do by multiplying the principal by the interest rate by time, or 1 divided by the amount of times interest is paid in the year. For us, that'll be $700,000 times 6% times 0.5, because it's semi-annual. This comes out to a semi-annual interest of $21,000. This $21,000 is the debit for the interest expense account. Now we put the $21,000 as a debit as this is an expense account, and those accounts go up with the debit. Secondly, for cash. We know that cash is decreasing as the company is paying the investor, and we know asset accounts decrease with a credit. So let's put the $21,000 as a credit to the cash account. Now, your last job is to journalize the entry to record the payment of the principal on the maturity date. As always, let's put the two accounts being affected, which in this case are bonds payable and cash. As you can see, it's basically a reversal of the first journal entry that we did earlier. So for bonds payable, this account is decreasing as the company is paying back its liability at the maturity date, which means that bonds payable is going to be removed at face value. Because we know this, and we know the face value, and that liability accounts decrease with the debit, we can put the $700,000 face amount as the debit for bonds payable. And for cash, the company is paying back the principal of the bond with cash to the investor, so we can put $700,000 as the credit to the cash account since it is going down. Now I'm going to give you a second problem so that you can try it for yourself and get a little more practice on. Let's say that on the first day of the fiscal year, a company issues a $654,000 8% 10-year bond that pays semi-annual interest, receiving cash of $654,000. Your job is to journalize the entry to record the issuance of the bonds. Now, I would recommend pausing the video here and trying the problem on your own, but it is totally okay if you don't want to do this and would rather just watch me do it. Now that you have or have not tried it out for yourself, I'm going to walk through it. The first thing I'm going to do is put the two accounts that are being affected in Part A, which are cash and bonds payable. We know from the problem that the company is receiving cash of $654,000 from the investor, so let's debit cash to increase the account. $654,000. Next, we know that the bonds payable liability is going up as the company now has to pay back the investor eventually, so we can credit bonds payable for $654,000 or the face value of the bond. Now let's move on to part 2, which is to journalize the entry to record the first interest payment. As always, let's put the two accounts being affected, which are interest expense, which is going up, and cash, which is going down. To find the interest expense, I have to multiply the $654,000 by the 8% by 0.5, which represents the semi-annual interest. This comes out to an interest expense of $26,160, which is the debit for the interest expense account. Cash is going down as the company is having to pay for the interest expense, so let's put a credit of $26,160 as the credit to the cash account. Now for part 3. Here I have to record the payment of the principal on the maturity date. The two accounts being affected are bonds payable and cash, which, as I said before, this last journal entry is basically a flip of the first one. Bonds payable is decreasing as the company pays the investor for the bond. If the company pays the correct amount, which we are assuming they do, bonds payable is removed at the face value of the bond, which for this problem is $654,000. So let's put that as the debit to the bonds payable account. Finally, cash is decreasing as the company is using it to pay the investor for the face amount of the bond. So let's credit cash for $654,000. And there you go. You now know how to journalize bonds being issued at a face amount, as well as how to journalize the entry to record the first interest payment and the entry to record the payment of the principal on maturity date. If you ever need a reminder of this concept, feel free to come back and watch the video at 2x speed. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.